But yes, thank you very much. My name is Holly and I am here today from a group called Christian Climate Action. And I'm going to be, I'll be kind of piecing the evening together. So I'll be introducing the different people who we've got speaking today. I'll kick us off with just setting the scene a little bit about what the protest called the Big One is all about and why it is so important at this time. I'll then hand over to Melanie, who's also from Christian Climate Action, who'll give a bit more details about the Big One and give a bit more information about how people can get involved. We'll then have Luke Harman from Christian Aid, who'll talk about a service called the No Faith in Fossil Fuels service, which is happening on the first day of the Big One protest on the 21st of April. We've then got Sarah Cadwallader from CAFOD, who'll give just a brief few words about the fact that CAFOD are also getting involved. And then our last person who we'll have speaking is Ruth Jarman, who's from Green Christian as well. At the very end, with the time that we've got available after that, we'll also have time for a Q&A. So with the chat that we've got on this Zoom, if at any time throughout the hour that you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat. And then with the remaining time that we've got left, we'll have a look at what questions are there and answer any that we can answer in that time. But there'll always be the opportunity to answer any of the other questions afterwards by follow-up through email and things like that. So yes, I will kick us off. So yeah, I think thank you very much, as I said, for being here today to find out more about the Big One protest. In such a vital time for the future of our planet, it's really good to see so many of you here, really. And the idea of the Big One is that it is the biggest UK climate protest yet. And the dates that it's happening are from the 21st to the 24th of April of this year. So in just a month's time now. And this is a protest it's been specifically designed for mass participation. So the idea is that churches will be there, small groups will be there, families, friendships, knitting groups. So yeah, it's very much one that's designed for mass participation. My church personally has decided that on the Saturday, that instead of having their church service in their church, that they're going to be having their church, inviting their church to come onto the ground for the Big One. And the idea is that in total, there will be about 100,000 people outside the Houses of Parliament. But before we go into more details of the Big One, which I'll hand over to Melanie for, I think it's really important that we just remind ourselves of why the climate crisis is something that requires our attention and our response at this time. So I do know, obviously, that, we've all had busy days. And so just to kind of focus our attention on, I guess, kind of why if this is something of importance. So the truth of the matter is that, the forests around the world, they've been in flames. We've had heat waves like the ones across Europe and Asia last year. There's been flooding in Bangladesh and Pakistan. The Horn of Africa, there's a drought which has left millions on the brink of famine. And the world that our God so caringly has knitted together is falling apart. And we are fast approaching a point where there is no turning back, where climate collapse is locked in. And if the world goes much beyond 2 degrees increase in warming from baseline levels, then there's a good chance that we're going to reach a point where it's going to be impossible to stop runaway global heating. And we'll just have to sit back and watch as the world around us escalates into increasing levels of suffering. And scientists say that we need change at an unprecedented speed and scale if we stand any chance of stopping this. So what this means is that right now, we need change that is quicker than even mobilization for the Second World War. And in order to do this, we need government interventions. And in fact, the Climate Change Committee said that the majority of the government policies that are needed for these changes need to happen within the next 1 to 3 years. So it's really clear that we don't have the luxury of time to mull this one over. The window in which we can act to change this is closing really, really fast. And as we just sit with how that makes us feel, I think it's really important that we hold in mind some good news and some bad news. So the good news is that largely we do have the technology to change this. We've got the technology to tackle the climate crisis. It's not a deficit in technology that's stopping us. And the good news is that we know how to tackle the climate crisis. You know, the Climate Change Committee has outlined a structured plan, and the UK government is aware of that plan. The good news is that it's not economics that's the issue. Renewable energy is cheaper than fossil fuels. So what's the bad news? Well, the bad news is that the actual barrier here is political will. So change needs to happen now, but politicians can't bring themselves to make the policy changes they know are needed. So the difficult decisions get pushed back to the next electoral cycle again and again and again. The bad news is that this has happened so much that since the formation of the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that's the IPCC, which happened in 1988, that's the group that compiles and disseminates climate science, we've actually emitted more CO2 knowingly than all our emissions previously. And the bad news is that we have big corporate interests and press billionaires actively lobbying against climate policies. So the top 5 oil producers alone are spending around $200 million a year just on lobbying to delay carbon reduction. So that is the context of what we're facing currently. That's the context of what is holding our children's future, our grandchildren's future, and all our futures in the balance. And the idea behind the big one is that, I guess, the understanding that the time for tinkering around the edges with climate change is over. If we want to tackle the climate crisis, we need something so big that can't be ignored. We need an event where people from different walks of life unify together en masse and demand the widespread societal change needed to prevent climate collapse. And it needs to be an event where we say that we're done feeling powerless and instead make the decision that we will prayerfully and prophetically be the hope that we need right now. So as I said, I'm speaking today on behalf of a group called Christian Climate Action, which is sometimes known as CCA. And we are taking part in the weekend alongside a number of other Christian organisations. So today we've got, as I said, Ruth from Green Christian, Luke from Christian Aid, but we've also got some other organisations as well. So Tear Fund are involved, YCCN, which is the Young Christian Climate Network, Student Christian Movement, Operation Noah, Just Love, Engage Worship, and also the Iona community as well. And these organisations will be taking part in different aspects across the weekend. And that weekend is from the 21st to the 24th of April. For example, we'll be hearing from Luke about why Christian Aid are getting involved in the No Faith in Fossil Fuel service, which is happening on that first day of the 21st of April. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Melanie. And Melanie can let you know a little bit more of the details of the big one. And how you can get involved.
Thank you. It wasn't allowing me to unmute myself. I was frantically tapping the button on the screen. Yes, so it's really good to be here, because actually what is so wonderful is that so many people are sufficiently interested in what's happening and the desperate situation we're in that you'll give up your Tuesday evening to come and hear about this. So it's a real privilege to be amongst you and to tell you a little bit more about the big ones. So Holly's mentioned a number of Christian organizations that are going to get involved. And actually today we heard the news that the Salvation Army had passed a resolution that right at the top of their organization, that means that they too will be involved in the service that I'll tell you a little bit more about, and our pilgrimage to this protest. So I think we will see more and more organizations getting involved. Extinction Rebellion yesterday announced 30 different organizations that are involved, from Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth through smaller climate and fossil fuel activist organizations like Fossil Free Network, and even the anti-fracking nanas, but also organizations like Quakers in Britain and CAFOD, and organizations that recognize that societal oppressions and injustices are very much woven in with the climate crisis, which will amplify all the other societal problems. So we've got NHS workers, and we've got trade unions, and we've got BLM, all coming on board for the very reason that this is a problem that will really make the work that they do across all sorts of areas of helping people that are at the sharp end of injustice. It will make their work so much harder. So when we first heard about this in CCA, we thought, what are we going to do to help Christians participate in this? We spent a lot of time encouraging other Christians to use their prophetic voices and to stand up in the context of the climate crisis. So we started by thinking, how will we enable Christians to exercise this prophetic voice? And we thought worship was one of the really big ways in which we could gather together and express our protest to the government in a distinctively Christian way. So we organized a number of services, and I'm going to try and screen share here, just to give you a sense of a visualization. Nope, I only the host can screen share. So let me just, okay, I've now been assigned co-host, so there we go. That's very helpful. Right. Okay, so hopefully you can now see on the screen some details of the worship services that we are organizing. On the 21st of April, that first day of the protest, we're all going to gather at St. John's Church in Waterloo. We'll be in the garden, because I think we're hoping that there'll be far too many people for the church. And we have got some amazing partners. We've got Christian Aid, Tear Fund, CAFOD, Green Christian. We've got Engage Worship. We've got Salvation Army. We've got some young children who will come and pray with us and lead us in this service. And we will then walk in a pilgrimage to Parliament via the Shell building. And we will stop for a few minutes and pray outside the Shell building, because we need to make our voices heard, not just in the sphere of government, but also in the sphere of corporations, and particularly fossil fuel companies. So after that, on the Friday, we will gather outside, somewhere outside Parliament, and we will hold at 3 o'clock that afternoon a Catholic Mass, which isn't on that list, but we have got Father Joe Ryan, who's a long-time climate campaigner who was at Paris when the Paris Agreement was made. He's going to celebrate Mass for us. Now, we can't be absolutely certain where we're going to be, and I'll come on to that in a moment, but we will be somewhere in the area of Parliament. So if you can't make this service, you can always come that afternoon. And we're aiming to be there every day from 11 a.m. With the worship service at noon, another event at 3, and we'll stay till 6 o'clock to offer people the chance to come and be part of this at a time that kind of works for them. So on the Saturday, we've got another really big event at, it's actually at noon, but we'll be gathering at 11. And we have got friends from Black majority churches to lead our worship there. We've got someone from AME Zion involved. We've got Professor Robert Beckford, and we've got a couple of other people who I think will be very exciting to hear. And they want to talk about the connection between racial and climate justice and the climate crisis as a whole, and what we here in this country can actually do about those sorts of things. Sorry, I think I may have said the Catholic Mass is on the Friday. It's actually on the Saturday at 3 o'clock, and you'll see it there on the screen. And then on the Sunday again at noon, we will be having worship led by young people. This is YCCN, the Student Christian Movement, and Just Love are all going to come and lead worship with music and prayer. And then there'll be a more formal Anglican Eucharist at 3 p.m. And then on the last day of the protest at the same time at noon, Christian Climate Action will be looking at leading worship ourselves. So let me stop sharing that, because you'll be able to get that information, and I'll show you where from in a moment. But let me just share a screen share of a map, which I think will, here we go. So this is a small section of a map, and you can see Parliament right against the river, and the green square is Parliament Square. And I've circled in red the area that we are hoping to be at. We're hoping to establish ourselves kind of somewhere near the junction of Stories Gate and Tothill Street and Broad Sanctuary, Victoria Street, that sort of area. We can't be more precise than that right at this moment, because we're still in discussion with other protest groups about where they're going to be in this scenario. And so what we're going to do is, when we can get a bit more certainty about this, we'll put it on our website, and I will be sharing the links to the website in a moment. But we will also have a Telegram group, which is open to anyone to join to keep themselves updated on the day. And I think Holly's going to put the link to the Telegram chat in this chat, so you can just copy it, and that will enable you to join our Telegram group. We know that there's a risk that by sharing it widely we'll get spammers, but we'll try and stay on top of that. You'll have to forgive us if we don't immediately get rid of them, but it's really important that people can contact us near the time to find out where we are. We'll be posting regular updates in there. So that, I said I would share something about how you can get further information. So here you are. This is a link to the Christian Climate Action website. Now at the bottom, I've put the web address, which is really simple, christianclimateaction.org. And I've done that because if you go there on our homepage, you'll find links to these two other pages. The first will give you information about the big one as a whole and what we're doing across all the days. And it will also give you information that about how you can get leaflets, how you can ask us to give a talk, how you can just get engaged as a whole in the run up to this, as well as information about the big one. And then we've got specifically for the service that we're doing on the 21st St John's Waterloo and this pilgrimage, we've got another specific page. And so you can go there for information. Now, I can see in the chat that there's a question about the London Marathon, and that means I can talk about it now. It's something we've known about for some time. So when we chose this 4 days, it was a deliberate choice of a period of time that meant that we could encompass both Earth Day and also 2 days when Parliament is sitting and workers are in the various government departments. And we would also avoid the coronation, but come after Easter. The London Marathon have been working with us on this and working with Extinction Rebellion quite closely. They're very happy that it's not going to interfere with the marathon at all. The streets are going to be kept clear for the marathon, and part of the reason why the protest is happening on the sort of south, slightly west area of from Parliament down towards Victoria Tower Gardens, and then moving towards Victoria, is to keep the route of the London Marathon free. But it has the advantage that there will be lots and lots of people in London at that time, lots of crowds with whom we can engage and do outreach and talk about the climate crisis, and who hopefully will visit the protest and add their voices. So it was quite a deliberate choice, and we hope that it will kind of play out really well to do that. Right, so one other thing that I wanted to screen share with you is we have a leaflet. I'm going to show you the first side of it and then the second side of it, which you can order from our website if you would like to sort of share them in your churches or at events. And it has, this is the first side with a link to a QR code for our website, and the information, lots of useful information on the reverse. There we go. So there you are. So yes, you can order those. Now, I said that the most important, well, I said I would try and be under 10 minutes. The most important thing I wanted to say to you is, how do you participate? You participate by showing up. That really is it. You just take the train, the tube, whatever, come to Westminster, walk along to where Parliament is. You don't even need to find us. You'll find loads of other people there exercising their right to protest and their prophetic voice. And that's what we're going to be doing. So just come and be with us and bring as many people as you can. It's really important. There we go. That's me done. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. Thanks, Melanie. I think it's me next. Everyone can hear me okay? I'm Luke. I'm Christian Aid's Campaigns and Activism Manager. And I was just going to share a little bit about sort of why Christian Aid are involved and what bits we're involved in. And really, I just want to say I'm really, really thrilled that Christian Aid are part of this, and particularly that we're part of the No Faith in Fossil Fuels service and pilgrimage, which Melanie talked about. It's going to be a really great event. What I really love about that pilgrimage and that service is that it's not sort of one organisation doing one piece of it and another organisation doing another piece. It's a real sort of coming together of different types of Christian organisations who are united in our desire to see a better, fairer world, to tackle the climate crisis, and to see God's love in the world. And I think that unity is really striking and really important as well, actually, in terms of taking part. I think that to show government, to show leaders that we want action on this issue, it's important that we do that with a joined up voice and with one voice. And so coming together to do something, I think, is really, really valuable. So Christian Aid will be part of that service and that pilgrimage. Melanie's already showed you where you can go to find more information about that itself. I think it's going to be a wonderful moment. I think there'll be lots of music, lots of singing, lots of joy, despite the climate crisis that we're in. And I think, as has been alluded to, it's a chance for us to pray together and be together, but it's also a chance for us to call for action, and to call for action from those who are responsible. So by stopping at Shell and taking a moment to pray, we'll be calling for action from fossil fuel companies. By finishing at Parliament Square and joining the wider protest, we'll be taking time to call on the UK government to act. And I think, as Holly said in her intro, these are the sort of the actors, the leaders, the decision makers who can make a difference in terms of the trajectory that we're on. And I've been involved in Christian Aid for a long time in our campaigning work. And I think one of the things that has been quite prevalent in the message that we hear back from ministers and politicians, probably over the last 5 or 6 years, we keep getting a message back that people aren't hearing, people in power aren't hearing enough from us, from their constituents, about this issue. Now, you might take that with a pinch of salt. You might say they're telling us what they want to say, but I think to some degree we have to take that at face value. And I think with limited bandwidth of any government minister, local MP, backbencher, whoever, I think if they're not hearing about it loud enough and clear enough, then that is really incumbent on us as part of our faith in action to make sure they do hear us, to make sure that they are listening, and to make sure that we are speaking truth to power. So we're not just speaking truth within our echo chambers or within the four walls of our church, but we're really going out there and we're speaking truth to power. And again, I think that's what this protest, this pilgrimage, gives us the opportunity to do. And I really hope that, as well as being part of the protest, that it can be a catalyst for further political action, because I think we need to keep this this message that we need political action really front and center as we move sort of through the next 1, 2, 3 years, where we need to change the trajectory that we're on. And so Christian Aid is going to be there on the 21st, as I've said, with many other charities and organisations. So if you're a Christian Aid supporter, come and find us as well, and we'll be taking part in the walk, and yeah, probably sharing sort of information on some of our other campaigns that are running throughout the year that you might want to get involved in. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, really, just to say again that I think coming together is going to be so important and really special on the 21st.
Thank you very much, Luke. And I'll pass over now to Sarah as well, if that's okay. Sarah from CAFOD.
Thank you, Holly. Yeah, just a very brief word from me, really. And I just want to echo a lot of what Luke said about CAFOD's involvement. We're just really delighted to be involved in the event and part of that No Faith in Fossil. Yeah, it's going to just be a fantastic moment, as Luke said, to sort of join together with one voice. And we're inviting all of the Catholic community really across South London and the whole of the Southwark Diocese, which is the area that I'm responsible for, and just inviting church leaders and everyone to come together. But if anyone is a CAFOD supporter and wants to meet with other CAFOD people on the day, please do join us. We do have the event on our website as well with a sign up, so that because we haven't decided some of our meeting points yet, so if you do want to find our page and find other CAFOD people on the day, then you can sort of sign up on our website to get that information in the lead up to the event. Yeah, that's it from me, really, just to add that we'll be there too. So looking forward to it. And actually over the rest of the weekend, hopefully some of my colleagues who work locally in London will hope to be joining for different parts of the other days as well. But the Friday is the main sort of event for CAFOD supporters and volunteers.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And yeah, I guess kind of the main reason why we're doing this as a group of Christians is because we do believe in the power of prayerful protest, and we do think that the church can play such a critical role in taking a stand against climate breakdown. So I'm going to pass over to Ruth now, and Ruth is here as a representative of Green Christian Charity, and I'm going to invite Ruth just to say a little bit about why, yeah, getting involved in this as a Christian is an important thing to do.
Thanks, Holly. Yeah, I mean, we've all got our own reasons for doing what we do, haven't we? But so I guess this was quite a personal Christian reason. It might not be your Christian reason. Yeah, so why being at the big one as Christians is a good thing is my title. And so you know, if you think about what do we offer as Christians at this time of absolute crisis? You know, what can we offer? What do we do when business as usual is taking us irreversibly to a place of unimaginable suffering? As Christians, what is our response? And of course, to start with, it's prayer, isn't it? It's prayer for a miracle, actually, and witness as to what is right and what is wrong. And we're called to be salt and light in the society at our time, and I do think that this no faith in fossil fuel service and pilgrimage on the 21st is just a fabulous opportunity for us to do all these three things, and we need to grasp it, right? Someone else is organizing it, doing all the hard work. All we need to do is turn up. It's handed to us on a plate, this opportunity to be you know, fully Christian, fully followers of Jesus at this time. And two more things that I think apply to us as Christians, and one of them is that we cannot be bystanders to violence, right? We cannot be bystanders to what is happening to the world, and we cannot be silent in the face of this massive, unparalleled injustice. And another thing I think sets us apart a bit at this time is that we are motivated by virtue and not by outcome. We are called to be followers of Jesus, whether or not it makes a difference. At Christian Climate Action, I know we say we're called to be faithful, not successful, even though it's nice if you're successful. Of course, we want to do everything we can to be successful, but we are called to be faithful. And from that point of view, I don't think I'm not sure whether ever really as Christians, I find it hard to understand Christians saying, that we have you know, I can't imagine ever being able to use the excuse that it's too late or what I do can't make a difference. I don't think as Christians we can really say that, even though it's quite rational to say that sometimes, but I think as Christians it's hard to justify that. And so again, I think the opportunity of the big one is three things. But simply to stand in solidarity with those who are dying now and who will be dying because of the climate crisis that we have caused and of course continue to cause, simply by being in the westernized world that is still digging up new oil. We are still causing this. So standing in solidarity with those who are suffering because of that, to stand against business as usual that is wreaking havoc on God's creation and all future generations, and to call for what is right. And the only scientific and moral path at this moment is to stop. No more fossil fuels, amen, which will be the banner that we'll walk behind. I was also asked to talk about what is it like, and I don't know whether any of you have done public prayer before, but it's a pretty scary thought if you haven't done it before. But actually, you will be with hundreds of other people, and I've found my most powerful and meaningful praying has happened in the street. So basically, what you need to do is turn up. Yeah, turn up, and it'll be easy to work out what you're meant to do: singing, praying, walking together. That won't be hard. But most importantly, of course, bring people, family, friends, church leaders. Write to your church leaders. We want bishops there, right? What's the point of them if they can't stand up at this time? So yeah, just finally, I mean, I don't think it was mentioned earlier that, you know, people have said that a lot of people have said, I understand what Extinction Rebellion are doing, I understand what Just Stop Oil are doing. I agree with their message, but I don't like their methods. Well, this is where we can come together around that very, very clear message that the government needs to act now, but without resorting to some of their methods. So thank you. I hope to see you there.
Thank you very much, Ruth. So yeah, I think we've got probably about 15 minutes now for some good Q&A time. And then I'll ask Patrick to wrap up the evening in prayer. I think Melanie has already answered the question about the London Marathon that's come through in the chat, that yes, we're very much, it's very much being organised alongside the London Marathon. I've had another question through just directly asking basically advice on if getting involved in the big one as kind of one person, so coming along not with anyone else, finding that kind of a bit of much of a kind of a daunting prospect, and just kind of how to deal with that really. And so I guess that might be something that hopefully quite a few people are experiencing. That might seem a bit strange saying hopefully quite a few people are feeling kind of daunted about coming along, but I guess this is designed, this protest, to hopefully be something that people can get involved in who've never got involved in protest at all previously. And that might be the case that lots of people kind of are coming as on their own, which is fantastic. And I guess a few things that I want to say. First of all, that's a completely understandable thing to feel, and I think we've all felt that at some point. So what Christian Climate Action are going to be doing is we're going to have people designated to kind of being welcoming new people, and having people we're basically kind of getting to know people who this is their first time, and there'll be activities that we'll be doing which will be easy for people to get involved in as that first step. So for example, we'll be having silent prayer. So if you're an introvert like me, you can spend the time just kind of sitting in silent prayer alongside other people. We'll obviously be, as we've talked about, kind of holding services that you can get involved in. We've got kind of an online songbook, so we'll be kind of singing songs together and things like that. So hopefully this will definitely be a space that, you know, we're a nice bunch of people, even if I do say so myself. So hopefully it will be kind of a welcome environment for people to be taking that first step. And yes, I put the link in the chat to the Telegram, but as Melanie said, we'll also be updating on the website where we are each day. So hopefully you'll be able to find us quite easily. And yeah, did anyone else want to kind of chime in about anything to do with that one? And then there might be some other questions that I'm just going to read as well. Fantastic. So we've got two other questions here. One is, how do we host those out of London in our homes, which is a really helpful question. And then the other one is, XR has been rather ambiguous about whether the protest will be fully legal, using phrases such as attendance over arrest. Basically, will the big one be legal, and will any people involved be gluing themselves, etc. Fantastic. So how about I take the first question, and then shall I hand over to you, Melanie? Is that all right for the second one? Oh, I'm not sure if Melanie can unmute herself. Let me just find.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Great. Let me just find the link answering that first question about hosting people in our homes. So on the page that actually Melanie shared in her presentation, and we'll be giving to Claire afterwards to send in her follow-up email, there is the big one on the CCA, on the Christian Climate Action website. If you go on that, I've just put it on the chat for if anyone wants to, as I'm talking it through, kind of open it up on their computers as well. If you go on that, about halfway down, it says about how can you get involved. Oh, it doesn't actually. Okay, so it's actually under how can you help out, and there's a subheading which says offer a sleeping space. So it says if you live within an hour of London city centre and can offer a space for someone to sleep, be that a floor, safe or a bed, please do let us know. And if you click that please do let us know, it'll take you through to basically just kind of an email to us. So if you just kind of email Christian Climate Action letting us know kind of where you are and when how many people you can sleep, be that 1, 2, 3, however is kind of most comfortable for you. Then there's another form where people say if they need accommodation, and we can link you up behind the scenes. So that's how you do that. And thank you. That's a really helpful way to be able to increase the capacity of the big one and just basically kind of let it thrive. Everyone who wants to be able to kind of get involved, it just makes it a lot more easier for them to be able to do that. So then I'll hand over to Melanie to answer the other question.
Thanks, Holly. So this issue about legality has been one that has been looming large, and lots of people ask this question. And I always say there are two parts that you've got to look at. One is permission and the other is legality, and we often get them confused. And it's really important that people recognize that in this country, we have a right to protest. It's enshrined in law. We have a right, firstly, to conscience. We have a right to public expression and a right to freedom of assembly. And therefore, we have this right to protest, which the police are obliged to facilitate and usually do. And sometimes we can be very critical of the police, the way that they police protests, but actually they frequently actually facilitate peaceful protests. And this is what they have agreed to do for the big one. So we had gone into this hoping that we would persuade places that they would allow us to use private land, so the parliamentary estate and Parliament Square. But unfortunately, part of the problem has been that the coronation is coming up hard against us. So Parliament Square, for instance, is being reseeded during this period, and so they won't let us on it. So we're going to be taking this protest literally to the streets, and the police, we've been liaising with them quite closely, and I've actually spoken to MO6 about the service and the pilgrimage and us being outside Parliament for our part of it. And they have said that they recognise our right to protest, that they will facilitate it, and were that situation to change for some reason, were there to be some unforeseen event, they would let us know. So they're not going to come and suddenly arrest people. There will be a chance to leave if the situation changes. We've also got assurances from XR, both directly and because of, I know their liaisons with the police, that there will be no glue, no paint, no lock-ons, none of that sort of stuff, which is partly the reason why we know that it will be facilitated. So they've actually said that this in terms, and they've told all their activists that are coming that they have to leave those things behind. And there will be kind of demonstrations, but they will be theatrical demonstrations. So, you know, there'll be, I think the Blackbirds are coming up from the Bristol area, and the tea ladies will be around. So it's that sort of thing that you can expect. There's going to be a big focus on biodiversity on the Saturday because it's Earth Day, and you'll be seeing a lot of the creative side of Extinction Rebellion as they bring in all their animals that they've made, you know, those huge great animals you sometimes see on the news. There'll be I think a Noah's Ark on bicycles, all that sort of thing coming together on the Saturday. So you'll be seeing that side, I think, of XR, and not the side that the papers usually report on. Does that help answer the question?
I wonder, Melanie, kind of off the back of that, if you want to say a little bit about the families area or the...
Yeah, so you probably, or you don't necessarily know that Extinction Rebellion have an Extinction Rebellion families, which are taking the lead on gathering family-friendly activities alongside other organizations with children. And so there is going to be a sort of family area. Again, we're not quite sure where, but it will have things that will both keep children entertained, but also keep them safe. So there will be areas like that. We'll also have a regenerative area where people can rest and you know, be outside the immediate noise of the protest. And the other thing that XR have is a big diversity and inclusion group, and they will be looking at making sure that people who are particularly vulnerable will be safe within this protest, that there will be chairs for them to sit on, maybe wheelchairs if they need sort of mobility aids, ramps, all that sort of thing. And I should also have said that on our pilgrimage, we've made sure we've got a step-free route so that people can, with accessibility needs, can come along on that. And if there's anyone who has particular accessibility needs that they would like to contact us, we will do our best to accommodate that. So if it's someone who needs headphones, we can borrow some of those, because if there's a noise sensitivity, I think we might be able to borrow weighted blankets, that sort of thing, if people need them.
Fantastic. Thanks, Melanie. And I think, as far as I can see, I think that is all the questions in the chat. Yeah, just inviting if anyone has any other questions. No question is a silly question. Great, we've got Edward with his hand up. So, are you able to unmute yourself, Edward, or Patrick might be able to help with that?
Edward, you can unmute yourself.
Great.
I've got a mobility scooter. So how do I access I don't know London at all. Once I come off the train at Charing Cross, I've been told. I've been told is the nearest station to Parliament. So once I come off there, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Do you want me to take that, Holly? I think that the easiest thing would be to come out of Charing Cross and to go straight down through Whitehall and down to Parliament Square. And I think you should be able to find step-free access right across there into Parliament Square. If, however, you are arriving at a time when the London Marathon is on, either before it, during it, or after it, when they have the roads closed.
Friday, the 21st.
In that case, you should be all right. But you need to think about whether you're coming to St. John's, in which case you will need to come across Waterloo Bridge and down to St. John's. We can't guarantee that the lifts across Hungerford Bridge will be working, or whether you can get a mobility scooter into them, whether they're big enough. But you can come from Charing Cross along to across Waterloo Bridge and down to St. John's Waterloo. I think there should be step-free access all the way through there. I haven't looked at it directly that way, but.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward. Does anyone have any other questions? Do you have your hand up, Sylvia? Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. If you'll be able to help Sylvia be unmuted.
Yes, please. You have to unmute yourself. There we are. You've done it.
Thank you. Yes, no, I was just wondering whether there are any other faiths that are also going to be taking part on the day, you know, Jews, Muslims, Sikhs, anybody else who cares about climate change. Seems like a great opportunity for all faiths to get
Do you want me to take that too as well, Holly?
Yes, please.
Okay, so there is going to be quite a big Buddhist presence there. So we know that they are doing their own thing. We can link anyone who wants to be linked into that. We'll also be looking at doing some stuff with them. There's some plans afoot for some mindfulness walks, meditative walks, that kind of thing. We will also be looking at having an interfaith event where we can all get together on either the Friday or Saturday. I'm just waiting. I've been talking to Faith for the Climate around who from other faiths is ready to be involved. It's a bit difficult because it's Eid. And as a result, I think lots of Muslims will not be they'll want to be with their families and not kind of at a protest. And some of the other minority faiths just don't have sufficient kind of capacity to do any of this sort of thing. But we're looking to do something, and we will update all our websites and our comms once we've got that organised.
Yeah, because Friday and Saturday are also problematic for our Jewish friends, of course.
Yes. Friday less so during the earlier part of the day. So we might be able to do something. Unfortunately, I think within Extinction Rebellion, the Jewish group is really at low capacity because they all work and they've got, so it's been more difficult for them to organise, but we will certainly be holding out a hand and seeing if we can partner in certain events.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your questions. I know that we've got a few minutes left, so we'll kind of wrap up the Q&A session there. And just to kind of say, oh, sorry, I think there's one more question. Isn't there also something at St John's Waterloo on Saturday from 10 till 12? It's being advertised in the Bridge. Interesting. Oh, I see. So Ruth has answered that one. Apparently there is, but that, I believe that's not, I believe I'm reading that's not got anything to do with the big one. That's separately. But yes, it seems like there is an event happening at St John's on the Saturday, but that's separate. But thank you for that question. So yeah, we'll wrap up the Q&A there. But as Claire's written on the chat that she'll send a follow-up email to everyone on the Churches Together South London email list with some of the key information that's shared today. And she's also said that if you're not on the Churches Together South London email list then and would like to join it, then there's an email address there, claire@ctslondon.org.uk. Fantastic. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. And hopefully the next time that we see each other, it won't be via screen, it'll be in person at the big one from the 21st to the 24th of April. But yes, I will invite Patrick to lead us in a closing prayer before we wrap up today.
Thank you so much, Holly. And thank you so much to all our speakers too, to Melanie and Luke and Ruth and Sarah. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this evening and sharing your knowledge and enthusiasm and for this really important weekend. And thank you all those who've joined us this evening too. And I very much hope you're inspired to participate next month and to make this a really successful event. So this meeting recording has been taken and we will be putting it on YouTube. Don't worry, it's only speaker view, so if you don't want to be identified, you won't be unless you're actually speaking. So now I'm just going to wrap up with a closing prayer. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks. We give you thanks for all we've shared this evening, for all we've learned from one another this evening. And Lord, we are dealing with your creation here, the creation that you entrusted to us to be good stewards of. And pray, Lord, that we may be worthy of that calling and that we may inspire others, and particularly our government, to take seriously the crisis that we are in with our climate and take the action that is necessary, to the action that we need now rather than years in the future, and pray that they put in enough resource. As we heard, they have the technology, they have the means to do it. Lord, pray that they have the will to do so. And we ask this in the name of Jesus, our Lord. Amen. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be upon you and remain with you this day and always. Amen.